There we go.
Sorry, connected to the internet. We can work on it. I'll get that away. Yes.
Want me to update them?
All right, I will call the meeting to order. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sarah, can you read our mission statement?
Sure. The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion.
I'll second.
No, you can motion.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion by Jeff and a second by Sarah Runcie to approve our agenda. Is there any corrections or additions? If not, I will call for the vote. And the agenda is approved. Our next item is our Tiger Spotlight. This is the meeting where we recognize a student from each building. That's why the room is so full. So how we do this, kids, when we say your name, I want you to stand and we're going to read a short bio on you and then we're done. I got certificates for each one of you and we're going to go back by that banner and take a picture of everybody. So Jeff's going to start with our student from Parkside.
Brianna, how do you pronounce your last name?
Alvarado Armigio.
Thank you. Brianna nominated by Mrs. Kalitzko. Brianna has wanted to be a star writer since last school year. She has worked diligently every day to improve her writing skills, and she has shown great growth as both a learner and a writer. Brianna is one of the most exuberant learners I have worked with. She comes to school every day, ready to learn, asks multiple questions throughout the day in her quest to be a good reader, writer, and scholar. When Brianna begins her writing, she has very clear ideas about what she wants to write, asks questions about how to best achieve it, and set her goals to produce the best writing she possibly can. Brianna has set lofty goals for herself in not only writing, but in reading and math as well. She has achieved amazing things, and I have no doubt she will continue to do so. Congratulations.
From Southview, Beckett Stensrud, nominated by Mrs. Leek. Beckett is a terrific student. He is a true asset to our school community. Beckett effortlessly helps other students feel comfortable and welcomed, always maintaining a positive and respectful attitude. However, what stands out the most is his kindness and compassion towards his peers. He is quick to defend, uplift, and compliment. Academically, he excels in his studies, demonstrating a strong commitment to learning. It is students like Beckett who make teaching such a rewarding experience.
And from the middle school, we have Kara Allerson, nominated by the fifth grade team. The fifth grade team would like to nominate Kara Allerson for the Tiger Spotlight Award. Kara is a leader inside and outside of the classroom. She is always showing the tiger traits by working hard in her classes, helping others around her, being kind to everyone, and is a positive role model. Academically, she always strives to do her best. She is ready and eager to learn every day. Outside of the classroom, she is involved in baton, church choir, guitar, and basketball. Through these activities, you can see her passion light up the room. Her positive and go-getter attitude is a joy to have in our classroom every day. Keep up the great work, Kara.
From the high school, we have Layla Konold. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Perfect. Nominated by Mrs. Schuckart, Mrs. Peterson, and Dr. Suker. This month's high school Tiger Spotlight Award recipient is 9th grader Layla. Layla was new to our school district this fall. Coming in as a freshman is a little intimidating, but she has been thriving. According to Ms. Peterson, from day one, she has worked hard to understand and learn information in U.S. History 1. According to Mr. Schuckart, Layla was a great addition to English 1 during first semester. Her willingness to ask questions helped other students who were perhaps not comfortable speaking up in classes. Both teachers say they have seen Layla go out of her way to help other students and always did so with a smile and positive attitude. Peterson and Schuckart enjoyed having Layla in class and miss her now that she is in a new semester. According to Dr. Suker, Layla is a pleasure to have in physical science. She is kind and welcoming to others in her small group discussion groups and in her lab groups. Layla strives to do her best work. She's an engaged learner who asks questions and asks for guidance as needed.
And from the ALC, I have Johnny Martell, and is it Lozano? Nominated by Mrs. Richardson and Mrs. Elton, Johnny came to the ALC at the beginning of the school year. It was apparent that he had background knowledge from prior grades because he could immediately answer questions in the classroom. As with any transition, it takes time to adjust to new surroundings and expectations. Johnny has reached the point where he is ready to lock in and recover credits for the purpose of graduating. His positive attitude and smile are a joy in the classroom. Johnny's personal trials and his ability to persevere make him the perfect student for recognition. I've seen a lot of growth in his maturity and making better choices on his behavior since he's come to the ALC.
Students will meet me back there by the Tiger banner.
We'll line up, take pictures. Parents, if you'd like to come back and take pictures this time, you're welcome to do so as well.
Congratulations. That's it. Congratulations.
Little group for me. This way.
All right, once you have your pictures, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you're also welcome to leave if you wish at this time.
I know.
Congratulations, students.
Yeah, one more time. Our next item is a public forum. Is there anybody from the public who want to approach the board? Seeing no one, we'll move on to our presentation of our solar project.
Tricia brought Mark Antony from the MMU to talk about our solar project. So welcome, Mark.
Okay.
Hi. Like Jeremy said, Mark Antony from Marshall Municipal Utilities, and I was asked to give a little presentation on how the school solar project is performing, and for those that are new to the board, to kind of give a history of the project. So, a little bit of history. In 2021, the Marshall School District applied for a Solars for School grant, And in 2022, they were notified that they did receive the grant for, to install solar at 5 of the school's facilities. So Solar Connection out of Rochester was selected as the project developer and installer. And the total cost for that project for the 539 kW solar systems was $584,000 and $584,865. And the Minnesota Schools for Grant covered 85% of that project, or $497,135. So the net cost to the school district was $87,760. And the installation for that project was completed in 2022 for 4 of the facilities, and in 2023 for the CTE Center, because that wasn't fully constructed yet at that time. So all the facilities qualify for net metering, which means that every kilowatt hour that's produced by the solar is a kilowatt hour that's not purchased from Marsh Utilities. That is savings to the school. So just to clarify, the solar project is owned and maintained by the school district. Marsh Utilities doesn't own it or control it or have any control over that. Our involvement was just to ensure that it was installed properly and provide the metering for that was done properly. So just kind of a history. This is the high school, and that system is located on the north end of the property. This one here is at Parkside, Southview, Marshall Middle School. That one is configured a little bit different because of the availability of space there, so they put it in 2 rows instead of 1. The CTE Center. And then this is a lot of numbers here, but it does show a little bit. The numbers to the left indicate energy produced by the solar, and then the peak production or peak demand output of the solar. And the numbers to the right is the school's load. So you can see the Marshall High School is the highest energy user, and then the middle school, Southview, Parkside, and then CTE is the smallest facility. So all in all, since installation of the project, solar provided about 7% of the school's energy. This further breaks out just calendar year 2024, which shows, full year of production for all the facilities. And in 2024, solar provided a little over 8% of total school energy use. And you can see production of the solar for all the facilities was real similar. It does vary a little bit based on their orientation and layout of it, but all of them performed real similar to each other. This is just a graphical showing of the previous slide. The large orange bars are energy use by the school. The lighter color oranges are solar production, and then that line showing the percentage provided by the solar. This graph kind of breaks down a little bit more of the high school on one particular day in September 19th. The darker line shows the school's demand for energy. So you can see, nighttime in September, obviously they were building up ice in the middle of the night for their ice storage system, then it drops down. And then in the morning, school's in session, the demand peaks up, and then it drops off a little bit during the middle of the day as solar goes up. It peaks later in the afternoon, and then drops down towards the end of the afternoon. And the solar is that lighter colored graph. You can see it must have been partly cloudy in the morning or something, and then about noon, then solar started producing at peak output. This next slide is this high school, just a different day, showing near perfect solar production graph, how it starts out in the morning. In November, that bell is a little bit shorter because of the amount of daylight, but you can see that it matches a little closer to the high school's demand for energy. So this is a pretty good day for solar production and how it ties into the school's use. That up and down, or that vertical arrow shows this particular day in November was the highest demand for energy for the high school. So you can see solar kind of aligns, not peak, but pretty close to the peak. So you got the maximum output of the solar. This is the CTE Center, much smaller facility. And you can see that vertical line at 0 shows that there was times during the day, even though it wasn't a good day for solar production, solar did actually outproduce what the school was consuming. So you can see where that line goes below 0, that dark line shows that solar was producing more energy than the school was consuming at the time. And being the CTE Center is the smallest facility, that does happen on occasion. And sometimes for the entire month, solar does produce more than the school uses. But all the other facilities, school uses a lot more than what the solar produces. This next one shows an absolutely perfect graph of solar production at the CTE Center the last day of August, where the school's usage is above the 0 line, and then in the morning when the solar starts producing, the graph actually peaks pretty negative on excess energy produced by the solar, and then as the sun goes down, you can see that the school starts taking energy from us. This next slide is showing what solar connection projected for cash flow. And this was for one site, not all 5 sites. This was just for the one site. And it actually showed a net positive return on year 4 of the installation. And it's using assumptions of, let me check my notes here, about 11 cents per kilowatt hour for the energy, degradation of about 0.07% of solar over time, and then a 3.7% increase in utility costs. So you can see those numbers vary per year on their projections. That was their initial projections in 2021. And in 2022, they broke things down a little more when they had some more information. And they projected a total output of 347,585 kilowatt hours of energy. And you can see it's kind of broken out by facility there. Next slide shows actual energy produced in 2024. So the total energy produced in 2024 was 329,235 kilowatt hours, which is about 95% of what they projected. Many factors influence projection, number of cloudy days, peak sun output, shading of the solar at certain times. So overall did pretty good. And just as a note, some of the sites in 2023 did exceed production or projections. Breaking that out in cost savings, solar connection projected about $24,784 in annual cost savings by the solar. And what it ended up being guaranteed savings was $11,410.89. And the reason I say guaranteed is because we're only counting the energy produced. So every kilowatt hour produced by solar is not purchased by us, and that's what I'm using. And 4 of the 5 school facilities are built on a demand and an energy component, and the energy is a small percentage of the total billing component. So basically, your billed on your highest rate of energy use for the month is a billing component for the 4 of the 5 facilities. And the solar, depending on how coincident it is with the peak demand, is what determines the actual savings. So it varies every day and every month of the year. So I didn't quantify any of that. So savings is probably much greater than this, but this is the actual guaranteed savings that I can actually quantify. So like today, if the school's demand was 500 kW and solar was at peak production, you would be saving that 40 kW from the solar from being billed. But if the peak of the day was at 8 in the morning when the sun wasn't up, then you wouldn't be seeing that demand saving. So it's really hard to quantify, but it's a lot higher than what I'm showing. But I just wanted to say that's a guaranteed savings there. And this is just a snapshot of the bill showing the CTE center. That being the smallest facility is billed a little bit different. It only is billed an energy component. So this particular one shows 7.7 cents per kilowatt hour of energy, or that's our energy rate for this facility. So any energy produced by the solar is not purchased from us. So there's a bigger cost savings just by the rate structure on the CTE center. And then the high school here shows the demand component, the energy component, and how that breaks into the total billing. So in summary, the equipment is performing as expected. Annual cost savings, on paper, it may not be quite as high as what they projected, but still pretty good. Even with the guaranteed savings, you're looking at a 7-year positive cash flow. So compared to the 4-year that Solar Connection projected, to me, it's probably right on for the savings as well. And savings will increase over time as utility costs go up. And, that Solar for Schools grant program really made this a viable project, covering 85% of the cost. That made a huge impact on it. It's a great learning tool for the students. It has a projected 30-year life and, just a good environmentally sound source of energy for the school and our community. So that's all I have. If any questions on anything with that, other than that, it's working good.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is our consent agenda. I will take a motion.
So moved.
Sarah.
Second.
Motion by Sarah Runcie and a second by Sarah Brink to approve our consent agenda. I will call for the vote. That is approved. Next item is our treasurer's report. Any comments, Sarah?
I don't have anything to add for this month.
Okay. Moving on to our action item, approval of the bills for 2025. I will make a motion. Give me a second.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion by myself and a second by Sarah Brink to approve the bills for January of this year. Any further discussion? I will call for the vote. And that is approved. Next item is a board forum information. Any board updates?
I have a couple. I attended the Community Services Advisory Board meeting. This week we had a really interesting update on the pool project. I would encourage everybody in the community to follow up on that. We also, as the consent agenda indicated, did interviews for Community Services Advisory Board, and the 3 people interviewed have been approved to be on that advisory board. I think they're going to be great additions, and I would just encourage everybody to look into the city commissions and advisory boards. There's lots of openings, and it's a really great way to learn about the community. And then I also, with Tricia Stelter, attended the negotiations training put on by Minnesota State School Board League. I'm sorry, I'm getting it mixed up with the Bar Association. Anyway, attended that. It was really great information in terms of negotiation and relationships with staff going through that process. So it was good training.
Good.
Anyone else? Moving on to our administrative reports. Jeremy.
All right, I'll start with mine. Just a little legislative update to start with, because that's kind of what everyone's talking about right now. State legislature is finally up and running, so we're watching things just really closely. A lot of conversations about education again this year. Really fortunate to have some advocates at the state level with MSBA, MASA, and MREA, who are we get to meet with virtually at least weekly. They're listening to our needs, sharing regular updates and advocacy needs with us, with the different legislators. A lot of movement and discussion at the federal level as well, so just a lot of noise in general this year, I would say. State level, a couple things I just want to call the board members' attention. One concern we have is the governor's proposal to eliminate QComp funding. That's part of his proposed budget. For Marshall, that would be an over $700,000 loss in our budget. And with a tight budget year, another $700,000 would be a big hit for us. That money is tied directly to teachers' pay and incentives. So really want to watch that one and advocate for that to stay put. If there should be much traction that comes with that proposal, I certainly will continue to let you guys know about that so we can advocate for that. Another area we hear a lot of conversation about is special ed funding and cross subsidies. Tends to be a hot topic every year. We just know that our needs are ever increasing and the funding does not keep up with those needs. A lot of conversations, again, around compensatory funding this year. Changes since COVID have really impacted how those revenue dollars are calculated. They have a significant impact on our overall budget, and we just haven't seen a long-term plan yet for how that's going to be calculated going forward. So continue to be concerned about compensatory funding for our district. Overall, the message that we're hearing, just probably not going to be a lot of new money this year coming from the state. So anticipating more conversations of looking how mandates can be impacted and maybe change some things there in order to support our schools. I also just want to share with the board that we recently had an encouraging conversation with leadership from our local Habitat for Humanity, talking about working together on career and technical programming and some our ongoing expansion with that, looking at maybe construction trades and working together. A lot of planning still to happen with that. We just think Habitat's work in the community could be a great partner for us in our CTE work. Look forward to those ongoing conversations as well. I'll go through each building like I do each month with these. Parkside, they recently celebrated their 100th day of school. If you have never attended the 100th day of school at Parkside, that is a fun day. Everyone dresses like an old person and they put powder in their hair and they wear canes and what have you. It's fun. A lot of things taking place that day there, a lot of celebrations. Darcy does share it's not all fun and games at Parkside though. That was also a great opportunity for students just practice their counting. They do a lot of things around counting to 100, so that's fun. And the picture Emily has up on the screen, they recently celebrated end of quarter 2 as well, and just progress that the students have had. They had a glow party, they had a DJ and glow jewelry. So, I mean, the DJ was probably a teacher playing music on a iPod or something. It was a fun activity. Darcy texted me in the middle of it. She goes, "Oh my gosh, you got to come over here. This is so much fun." And I was in the middle of something. I didn't get over there, but the kids had a lot of fun that day. Tiffany and Darcy also want to share with the community the preschool and kindergarten registration and open house and preschool registration is open. They are hosting their annual open house on March 6th this year. It'll happen again March 6th from 4 until 6 p.m. This year they're doing the kindergarten roundup and the preschool registration as one event, hoping to make that more convenient for parents who have students in both programs. Southview, he shares as they're continuing their BAR implementation, there's one piece of the BAR model they haven't implemented yet. It's called their Big Block meeting. So Big Block is a way that they talk about student needs and meeting those needs. So at their staff meeting recently, they broke into 3 different teams and they practiced running a meeting as a whole staff. So they assigned different roles and they run it just like they would in the actual meeting. So all staff got to experience it once before doing the actual meeting. So they had a really good training with that and they want to hit the ground running at their upcoming actual Big Block meetings at that level. Pete also shares that on February 11th, they had Dr. Trayer visit their school and tell some stories. He's a professor of Ojibwe at Bemidji State University and an author of many books. He talked around Native American folk stories with the kids. So it was a good event for all the students at Southview. Middle school shares it's been a busy few weeks at middle school. It's always busy at the middle school. 5th graders had social studies first semester going on to science. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, they switch every other quarter, I think, with social and science. So flipping in those classes, various exploratory and pathways classes. We have general music, media arts, PE, FACS, art, agriculture, Spanish, and PAYS. So depending on the grade level and programs there, kids are taking different classes with a new quarter. So a lot of shifting with schedules and just kind of that's helping prepare kids for high school with the changing schedules and just getting to experience a wider variety of things. That's been the changes in the last couple of years at the middle school. It's been really well received. Third quarter parent, guardian, teacher conferences were February 13th, so just last week. First half of the evening, we had scheduled conferences with teachers. Second half was more of an open house style. They also had the kindness closet open that night, so it was a good night just to touch base with teachers and check on progress of students. She also shares at the middle school, we recently finished the winter testing in NWA, reading and math. Peggy's been meeting individually with teachers, just checking on student progress and encouraging them, meeting with students, setting individual goals for spring assessments, and how that data helps us drive through the rest of the year. High school, Brian shares that semester 1 grades are in. We saw an improvement compared to semester 1 week 15 grades. So he's always looking at the percentage of students passing with some goals tied around that. Really, it's an indicator of on track for graduation. A couple highlights that he points out: 12th grade students had 90% or more students who passed all of their classes. All the grade levels improved significantly better as compared to where they performed during week 15 progress check. And students in grade 12 performed better than the previous 2 cohorts done. So certainly appreciate Brian's tracking that and his work with that data. He talks about a lot of with staff at the high school too, so we can use that as an indicator of success at the high school. He also shares this week is a big week at Marshall High School for a number of reasons. One reason is it's Snow Week, February 18th to 21st. High school student council planned dress-up days this week, and all the buildings are in dress-up days. Now we're having late starts and cold weather, and it kind of throws a little bit of a crimp in some of the dress-up days, I suppose. They had planned on doing coronation this Friday afternoon, but we also have some teams that are being very successful at the high school, so that's going to affect coronation. That is moved now to next Monday. Snow Week dance, as far as I know, is still this Friday, though. Just with kids kind of coming and going, there's going to be a lot of that next couple weeks. So trying to plan to have as many kids available for those events as possible, because Snow Week is a fun week for the kids. He also shares, you may recall that last fall, students Jack Gunn, Carter Gerke, and Ryan Botsford were named as 3 of the 16,000 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. Earlier this month, we were notified that all 3 of these 3 young men were named as finalists. So that's a big deal. And for Marshall to get 3 kids that rolled forward, and that's a very big deal. So big congratulations to those guys. That selection of some 6,800 merit scholarship winners from the group, that was more than 15,000, is now in progress. Notification of the recipients will occur in 4 waves and will occur in April, May, June, and July. So big congratulations, Jack, Carter, and Ryan. We'll have to get them to a board meeting, recognize them at some point so you guys can meet them. He also shares last week the Marshall Orchestra students competed in Mankato at the Region Large Group Contest. They earned 2 superior ratings. According to Wes Myers, our director of that orchestra program, this is the first time in his career that any of his orchestras have accomplished that feat. Only the second time in the history of the school that we know of where that has been accomplished. So big congratulations to Mr. Myers and the orchestra students. He also calls out specifically Clara Purrington. She's a 9th grader at Marshall High School. She was invited to audition and selected to perform in the Minnesota Middle Level All-State Orchestra. That happens on February 15th, so it happened. Congratulations to Claire and her family. It's a big deal as well. ALC CTI. Dan shares this month that Mrs. Walker has set up guest speakers for the month of February. So we have different business people come in and talk to the kids, talking about careers and such at the ALC. So far, students heard from Carlson Stewart, Avera, and Justin Giscoot from the automotive industry. He also highlights one graduate they had in first semester who finished all of his coursework, met his goals in April. He is heading off to Georgia for basic training. So they celebrated him, and I think he has some pictures in his report, or maybe that was in Jackie's report for celebrating the student. CTI has had a change in staffing in the automotive classes, but those classes are moving forward. Students are actively learning. Welding and fabrication course is working on their stick certification and designs of projects. Our new plasma table is fully installed and be a great addition out there. And soon that class will start fabricating projects such as fire pit rings, signs, trailers, that sort of thing. So we're going to start student business aspect is kind of the next step in that program. Also shares that students in the automotive courses are diving into major systems, including how to diagnose a vehicle issue. I understand there were a lot of vehicles like today that didn't start with the code, so maybe the kids could help diagnose what's going on there, if it's more than just a battery. Courses are designed to give a feeling of what it's like to work in a real repair shop. Jackie's report this month for SPED, she highlights the high school and the ALC. Students in the functional English class have been giving functional lessons on reading recipe has been the current skill. They've made frosted sugar cookies, dipped Ritz cracker sandwiches, candy-coated pretzels, and Chex Mix. So I think I need to visit that class too. Just a real-life use of some of those skills. The ALC, she also mentions that graduate. He was new in the building, special ed student, worked hard really in and outside school. He earned straight A's this fall semester, so just a big celebration. Both of them called that out in the board report. It was pretty exciting. In Mary Kay's report this month, she mentions the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee sponsored several student and family registrations for the community event. I want to say This Is Us, and I'm drawing a blank. It begins with us. God, I hit it right on the tip of my tongue. Begins with us. So we had students and families attend that. Primary focus was a 2-day conference revolved around keynote and inspirational teacher. Again, that was Dr. Anton Trayer, who had been at Southview as well. He spoke about racial equity and cultural humility. The audience appreciated his warmth, perspective, data, and positions on life for all, but especially marginalized populations, including Native Americans. So it was good that that group of people was able to attend. In activities, a lot of things taking place in our activities department. In fact, Mitch's report, I don't think it's even in there because he has been busy. I understand we are at 6 teams right now for the year that have performed at the state level, anticipating additional teams yet this year going to state. That is more than Brian and I can remember ever happening in one year. Just been a huge successful year. And that's not counting all the individuals that are going as well. So I know girls hockey is going this week. Tomorrow they're leaving. Wrestling is leaving next week. And we've got more teams. Our basketball teams are still certainly in the running to make it there too. So just a lot of success. I want to say a big thank you to Mitch and all of the activities department for the work taking place there. A lot of success. Director of Teaching and Learning, Beth calls out CEO Pitch Day. It's a day where the CEO students have an opportunity to pitch their business ideas to CEO board members and mentors and hope that their businesses will be approved. And that's when they actually ask for funding. So they said it's an actual business pitch, and there's actual money involved through that program for students to start their businesses. It runs like a Shark Tank style presentation. If you've ever seen the TV show Shark Tank, it's a lot like that. CEO students, they put a lot of time planning their business plans and laying it out. And then they debut their businesses at the CEO trade show on April 30th. So more information to come, but board members do mark your calendar for April 30th. This year, the trade show is going to take place in Tyler at the golf club. And that is always a nice event, these students highlighting what they're doing. They're actually running these businesses. Beth also shares in her report that later this month, we will be meeting at the CTI with a nurse evaluator from the Minnesota Department of Health to go over our CNA program. So Department of Health reviews compliance requirements, and there's part of running a CNA program. So looking forward to having that next step with our CNA program. In operations, Tricia shares that in 2021, the Minnesota legislators allocated money for transportation safety funding. As part of that award, Southwest Coaches was awarded $90,000 to update camera systems that includes 2 stop arm cameras on all the buses. The objective in applying for that grant is just watching for student safety, vehicle behaviors, and being aware of what's happening there. And so that is an exciting grant for them. They'll be getting those cameras installed soon. So congratulations on that grant. She also, we should have introduced him when he was here earlier today, but Pia Mua is our new supervisor of building grounds. So Warren has announced his retirement. He's transitioning out. He's been with our district for, I think, 27 years. Certainly has done a lot of good things with the district, and we're going to miss him. But we are very excited to have Pia Mua on board, coming in with a lot of experience. And he's starting, so transitioning, learning the job with Warren, and will be fully in April, taking over as our as our director of buildings and grounds. So congratulations and welcome to Pia. Finally, it's Sarah with finance, and I'm going to turn over to her this month to talk about her report. I'm tired of talking.
All right, so for my report, we're still have our ears open on the Minnesota paid leave program that the state is launching in 2026. They are saying that they're still on track for starting that off right away in 2026. What this would result in is an employee and an employer contribution to this program. And we're estimating right now, state fiscal staff were initially saying that employers would be contributing approximately 0.70% to this program. Now they're saying it's probably more like 0.88%. So that's just something that we're going to keep an eye on and follow along, and we'll obviously be planful and budget for that in fiscal year 2026. Just wrapping up a lot of our calendar year-end tasks, got through all of that, so that's been nice to get off our plate and just focus on the rest of the year here. And one of the big projects I'm working on, obviously, is the revisions for the 2025 budget. That's been just an ever-changing process over the last few months for me. The co-op, I'd like to thank them for assisting me with really annualizing the current salaries and benefits that we have. They assisted with that process, which is pretty complex. We do have a lot of staff in different program areas, and they went ahead and took care of that for me. And there wasn't a real major change to the salaries and benefits from the original budget, so that was nice to see. I also had some assistance. Dion Karen did reach out with some helpful advice for budgeting, especially in the revenue categories and, things that are going into Fund 1 versus Fund 3. So he really has been helpful, and I just wanted to thank him for that support as well. That's nice to have. And so even as of 2 hours ago, I was updating this report just to show where we're at from a budget perspective for this year. So it's really looking like we're pretty close to where the preliminary budget was. As of right now, overall, we're still showing a deficit at the end of the year. And right now I'm projecting that to be around 1.1 million overall to end the year. And Jeremy mentioned quite a few things that we're looking at that are coming up in the next year. So I just noted those in my report as well of things we're looking at and keeping an eye on to be very planful for the next year to try to turn things around.
Thanks. Thanks to both of you for your reports. Our next item is a discussion item, a second review of policies 605, 606, 611, 612.1, 618, 621, and 623. We will approve these at the next meeting. Any questions on these? If not, we'll move on to our only action item tonight is approval of the Southwest West Central Service Co-op contract.
So moved.
Thank you, Sarah. Need a second.
I can second.
Is that Mary?
Yep.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Sarah Runcie and a second by Mary to approve the SWWC contract for the coming year.
I'll just share that this contract is an annual contract where we work with the service cooperative. They provide a number of different services. A lot of it's for things that might be a very limited number of students that we need service for example, some special ed services, some health and safety type things where we can't have a staff member or something do it ourselves. So we work in collaboration with them. They hire staff and they kind of work across a number of districts in the region. So certainly grateful to them for having these services available to us so we can meet the needs of all of our learners, and reviewed the contract for next year. They need to do it early because just like we're talking about staffing, they're looking at staffing, need to make sure they're staffing appropriately. So they need to know what different districts are looking at. This is very much in line with this year. So looking at the same services and the pricing is right in line with what we anticipated this year. So asking for the board's approval on that.
Very good. I will call for the vote.
It's not giving me
You might have to join the meeting again. Last time we was in trouble.
there we go.
And that is approved. And at this point, I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.